Forced off air, Israeli police attack a crew from RT's Arabic channel while covering the latest controversial Jerusalem Day march. Plus,
16 and 17, 118, 119. So 119 members of my family who were killed.
our correspondent Paula Slier goes on a deeply personal mission to trace a relative who became a victim of the Holocaust, only to learn that 119 members of her family were exterminated during the Second World War. And getting cross about Bibles, we tell you why a British university is taking the Testaments out of the students' rooms. Hello there, you're watching RT International. It's just gone midday here in the Russian capital. Welcome to the programme. Scuffles between Israeli police and Palestinians broke out during the annual Jerusalem Day March. The controversial event marks the anniversary of Israel's capture of East Jerusalem, a move which has never been internationally recognised. Palestinians see the event as a provocation, and this has often led to violent clashes with police, and this year was no exception. A news crew from RT's Arabic channel was there and got caught up in the unrest. Israeli police officers damaged a camera during their filming. Afterwards, our correspondent tried to deliver a live report using her mobile phone, but the police intervened again.
I'm on air, you see, I'm on air, I need to finish this.
Although the RT crew had all the necessary permits to cover the event, they were still stopped from doing their job.
You know I'm on air? I'm on air. You're interrupting me. I need to finish I see. But I'm on air.
Well, Dalia there talked to us afterwards to give us more details about RT's crew's ordeal.
A policeman came closer to me and took away my earpiece while I was on air, and I was trying to explain to them that we are from RT because the spokesman for the police came earlier to ask me what I was doing standing there, and I told him we work with RT. And after that we saw the policeman coming while I was on air, taking away my earpiece and threatening me if I don't move away, they're gonna use the force, and so they forced us to move away. When we were on the site near the Damascus gate where the settlers were supposed to gather, we were told to stay away from the center of the site, and so when we didn't listen, we were pushed away by the police, who said that there is a place where journalists should be, where that place was very much narrow and couldn't fit for all journalists. So whenever we were trying to move away and take pictures for the march, we were pushed away by the police, and so the cameraman was also pushed while he was trying to film the police arresting Palestinians. They broke a piece of the camera, and it was really hard to cover the march today from that point.
Well, RT then spoke to a police representative in Jerusalem to get an explanation as to why they acted with such force against one of our news crews.
We've seen some violations of the law during the protests. Some police officers were attacked. One policeman was wounded by a stone. Freedom of the press is guaranteed for all journalists, both local and foreign. If this guarantee is breached, we'll address each case. This is a huge event, and we take measures to keep journalists aside for their own safety.
Well, the incident with our correspondent from RT's Arabic channel is not isolated. Both local and foreign reporters have had run-ins with Israeli police.
Standing here at the Kalandia crossing.
هو يوم الأرض بالنسبة للفلسطينيين. معركة لم تتوقف للحظة واحدة. وين
Sociology professor James Petras believes Israel's acting like a police state.
Israel is totally intolerant of any kind of independent reportage. I think that the statement by the Jerusalem police is a very cynical manipulation of reality and trying to impute aggression on some unstated adversary. This is contrary to what we know, what we see. There's no question that the ganging up by a dozen Israeli police was an act of aggression. It acts like a police state. It flaunts the international recognition of journalists' rights.
The world is marking 70 years since the defeat of the Third Reich. The horrors of the Nazi regime left deep scars after the war, affecting even today's younger generations. RT's Paula Slier, she explores the story behind a box of letters that gave her the clues to uncovering her family's wartime history.
Pa and Ma, I have a sense that something is going to happen soon. Thousands and thousands are dying, but we have to keep our courage up. Flip.
These are words written by Flip Slier on the 13th of July, 1942. Soon, he will be murdered. I am Paula Slier. He's my first cousin, once removed. I have returned to the city of his birth, Amsterdam, to tell the story of his death. So, 70 years ago, this is where my family lived. From what I understand, it was from this house that Flip's parents were taken. They died in the camps eventually.
Paula explained to Ewan O'Neill more about the emotional journey she undertook in order to uncover the truth.
There was a building in Vrolijkstraat, Amsterdam, that was being demolished, and Flip's parents lived in an apartment in the building. And when the builders knocked down the roof of the bathroom, a box of letters came tumbling down, some 86 letters that had been written by my 18-year-old relative over a period of 6 months from a labor camp called Molengoed. And of course, that then prompted not only to find out what happened to him, but what had happened to the rest of my family who came from Amsterdam.
It really must have been an emotional experience to hold the original letters, to read them that your relations had read. In fact, let's take a look at that moment now.
I can't believe it.
Lieve pa en ma, veel weet ik op dit moment niet te schrijven. Of hij
What is a human being?
kaart
What is life worth nowadays? Nothing. And yet we will not lose it. And that's why we have to keep strong and have to trust. We once will be set free. Of this I am sure.
Hartelijke groet en een stevige zoen van Flip.
I started off trying to find out what happened to Flip Slier, and during the course of my research I found out that 119 members of my family had been killed. Most of them were gassed in Auschwitz and Sobibor, and I'm talking about all my grandfather's brothers and sisters, my great-aunts, my great-uncles, my cousins, my great-grandmother.
You also did something else. You spent a night in Auschwitz itself. Just tell us about how evocative that was for you.
It was extremely evocative. Auschwitz is hell on earth, and when you go to hell at night and you have the watchtowers and the barbed wire casting their shadows and almost following you around everywhere, it's almost terrifying, if you like. And here is a clip, but just to warn our viewers that some of these scenes are quite distressing.
I look at the beds, and then I try to imagine over the years that this place functioned as a barrack in the concentration camp. How many people came through here?
Lieve pa en ma, veel
Dear father and mother,
op dit moment niet te schrijven.
we had to get up at 5:30 in the morning. At 5:45, we have to stand in line for food.
Of het doorgaat, weet ik niet.
Around 6:30, we have to be at the workplace. At 7 o'clock, we have to start.
Precies, 27.
There's a freezing cold wind blowing so early in the morning. This cold chills you to the bone. I am strong and healthy. Flip.
Van Flip.
I met Rainer Huss. He is the grandson of Rudolf Huss, who was the commandant of Auschwitz, where some 1 million Jews were killed. And so essentially I was meeting the grandson of the man who was responsible for killing my family, and I felt conflicted about meeting him, but he has separated himself from his family. They've disowned him, and he's using the Huss name to spread a message in the world that Auschwitz must not happen again, and of course it's a message I appreciate. I asked him whether or not he thought the Holocaust could happen again, and he said yes. And for me, parallel to finding out my family's story, the real importance of the documentary was these attempts that we're witnessing today, 70 years after the end of the war, for people to rewrite history. And only by finding out what happened to our families, only by recording the testimonies of people who were there, can we, with facts, stop this revision of history. And that is why this documentary was so important to me.
Well, you can watch Paula's story in our special report. It's 119 Lives Unlived, which premieres globally on RT International and the RT documentary channel as well this Wednesday. Well, coming up, an army in disarray. We'll look at how US instructors are trying to train Ukrainian troops and why it's proving to be a mammoth task. Plus, the average London home could cost £1 million by 2030. We meet the cash-strapped locals forced into seeking floating alternatives.